You ready? You done with your hair? You're all primed up and proper? You're good?
I have to be camera ready.
Yeah, good luck with that. Hi, I'm Giancarlo.
And I'm Felicia.
And this is our preview.
And he just said a really mean thing.
Keyflower! Let's get on with it, Keyflower.
Well, I'm sure. You're a jerk. I'm going home.
In Keyflower, players will use their workers to acquire land and grow their village. In the box you'll find 64 land tiles. There are 12 tiles for each of the 4 seasons. Green leaf for spring, sun for summer, brown leaf for autumn, and the snowflake for winter. 48 skill tokens, which include anvils, pickaxes, and saws. Resource tokens for gold, iron, stone, and wood. 6 3D home screens to hide your game components. A black cloth bag to draw from randomly. And finally, wooden meeple of different colors, 141 of them in total. The player who scores the most points by the end of winter wins the game. Here's how to set up. Place the blue, red, and yellow workers in the cloth bag and leave the green ones on the side of the table. Now shuffle the skill tiles and place them face down next to the resources. Each player now gets a screen house and draws 8 workers secretly, placing them into their house. Sort the tiles in different types: the home tiles, the boat tiles, turn order tiles, and the 4 seasons. Each player gets 1 random home tile and places it in front of their screen. The player with the lowest numbered tiles also gets the first purple worker meeple. The boat tiles have numbers on them. According to the number of players playing, you will place some boat tiles in a row with the numbers facing up. Take the workers and skill tiles and place some face up on top of the boat tiles according to what they say. Do the same with the turn order tiles and place them under the boat tiles. Place some spring tiles in the center of the table and make sure they are oriented in the same way as the boat and turn tiles. The side of the tiles closest to you will be your side. Depending on how many players playing, the table in the rulebook will tell you how many of these tiles are placed. So in a 3-player game, place 7. Finally, each player gets a number of winter tiles as well. They should look at the back side of each, but not reveal them to the other players. Think of these as goals you might want to accomplish during the game. You're now ready to start building your village.
The game is played in 4 seasons. Let's take a look at a season. The player to play first will be the player with the purple worker. During a season, players can bid, produce, transport, and upgrade. To bid on land tiles, players will take turns placing workers on their side of the tile they are trying to win. When you place a worker, it must be of the same color previously placed there. So if there is a yellow worker there, only yellow workers are allowed at that tile. You can also bid on turn order tiles in the same way. You can move your workers anywhere you like, even from one tile to another, but only if you are outbidded by another player, and they must all move together. You can even add them to your own village tiles, or you can throw them in the bag to be replaced by new ones. The only thing you can't do is bring workers back into your house.
To produce instead of bidding, you can place workers on tiles which produce something. If a tile is not being bid on, then you can place a worker of any color on it and take its action, which is usually to produce something, and whatever is produced goes on your home tile. If the tile is being bid on, you have to place a worker of the same color. If you want to use tiles that was used, you can, but you must put an additional worker. Each tile, however, has a maximum of 6 workers. You can also place workers on your village tiles or the village of another player to produce. If you use your own tile, you place the resource on the same tile. If you use another player's tile, you place the resources on your home tile instead. If you generate a skill, then you draw a face-down skill tile and place it behind your screen. Now let's take a look at transporting resources and upgrading your village.
Transportation is the action used to move resources around in your village. Same as any other action, you must put workers on the tile to use it. The number shown is how many moves you have for resources. So if the number is 2, you can move 2 resources, 1 spot adjacent following a road, or 1 resource 2 spaces. You need to move your resources around your village so that you can upgrade your tiles, but you can only use road to move between tiles. The number of houses on your transport card is how many upgrades you can do. Upgrading is simple enough. If you have the resources needed on the tile, pay the cost in the arrow of that tile to flip it over, making it a better tile, depending on your strategy. Some tiles might need you to pay a skill tile instead, which is taken from behind your screen if you have one and placed face down in the general pile. On your turn, you can say pass if you wish not to take any more actions or if you can't do any more actions. Once all players have passed in a row, the season ends. When a season ends, all workers who are a part of bids but did not win go back behind the player's screen. All tiles who were not bid on are removed from the game. Starting with the first player, each player who won a tile bid takes the tiles and all workers on it and places those workers behind their screen. The workers used to bid go back into the bag. Each player which has workers on their home village takes those workers and places them behind their screen. Finally, we move on to the turn order tiles. Here, the winner of the first tile chooses a boat and takes everything on it, then the second, then third. The player who won the purple meeple becomes the first player for the next season. At the end of a season, each player simultaneously builds their village with the tiles they won. When placing the tiles, you must follow certain rules like matching roads and water tiles so that they make sense. When everyone has finished placing their newly acquired tiles, a new season begins with new tiles in the center, and the player who has the purple meeple goes first. The game ends at the end of winter with a final scoring round to see who wins. You get points for having a specific type of resource on the tile. The tiles will tell you how many points you get for having moved resource to that tile. Some tiles have points in the top right corner of their box, which means that if you have these behind your screen, you can simply add them to the tile for some points. The player with the purple meeple can score it as well as a wild resource, skill, or meeple. Gold which is not used on tiles will give you 1 point each. Add up the total, and the player with the most points wins.
Keyflower, obviously enough, is a Euro game which offers players lots of different paths, tactics, and strategies for each player to achieve their goal. And the player interaction is strong, as using your meeple to outbid another player, forcing him to play more meeple, or using another player's tile but giving them an extra meeple the round after attests to this. There's even a small element of bluffing, bidding on tile you necessarily don't want with meeple of a color you don't have much of, to passing and seeing what other players do before you act again. Luck is kept to a minimum, which is basically the tiles that appear, meeple you get from the bag, and what skill tokens you randomly receive. The theme is well represented as well, as the different seasons will have players fight over different aspects. Resources in spring, transportation and upgrades in summer, victory points in autumn as harvest, and winter will be the final scoring phase as the year comes to a close, and placing your tiles is that much more difficult because of the snow. The artwork's okay, it's more used for functionality than presentation, but the 3D houses, all unique in their own way, was a nice touch and showed they paid attention to details. But oddly enough, talking about the details, I found a little strange how the scoring system was not at all balanced. Yes, you have all these paths you can take, but more often than not, the best path will have you fight over high returns and victory points with the least amount of workers required. Like tiles that give you huge VP bonuses for skill tokens and very few for workers. So you really have to think ahead, but you also have to realize that the long-term strategy isn't really that long-term. The learning curve is also a little high though, so I'm a little worried for accessibility to the game, and it's a type of game that you'll have fun playing with people of the same level of experience as yourself. It's not so much a steamrolling per game mechanic, but per game knowledge. And once you've figured that out, it does have replay value as you try the game again with new light, knowing what path to take and competing against players who know the path as well. But if you like Euro games with worker placement, bidding, and resource management and player interaction, then do check out Keyflower. Its mechanics are well presented for those 4 styles of game concepts. Keyflower gets 8 both full of workers out of 10.